Hello, my friends. There was a custom in 16th century Europe. That is, the Jews had to hang a special symbol around the neck or put a badge on the chest. Their homes also had special signs outside to distinguish them from ordinary houses. This discrimination was because Europeans considered Jews to be less human than ordinary Europeans. The civil rights of Jews were also less. Jews were allowed to live in special settlements called Jews' Lane. The monuments of one such settlement are still preserved in the Frankfurt Museum. Jewish slums were also called ghettos or foundry. These areas were surrounded by walls to separate them from the rest of the settlements. Jews were prohibited from owning houses outside of these designated areas. They could not come out of their areas even at night. They were not allowed to go out into the city on any Christian festival day, including Sundays. Then, along with this discrimination, hatred against them was also spread a lot. Posters against the Jewish community were plastered on the walls of Frankfurt, in which it was propagated that Jews worshiped pigs and used the blood of children for their religious festivals. Although there was no truth to it, they were often blamed for the city's problems, and riots were also carried out in the ghettos. So, fellows, in the mid-16th century, around 1560, their Jewish family lived in one such ghetto in Frankfurt. A red shield was made outside their houses for recognition. This sign was also used to be hung around their neck. In the vernacular, red was called root, so it made the root shield, which then changed over time to become Rothschild. It is said that Rothschild himself adopted the name to distinguish himself from the rest. Some other Jewish houses in Europe were called the Rothschilds because of the red shields outside, but historically the families that made a name for themselves and every major event became associated with them in some way. That family is the same red shield Rothschild of Frankfurt. We will present the story of this family to you. My curious fellows, many theories are popular about the Rothschilds of Frankfurt. Some are true and some are just fiction. We will present to you not all but 4 major theories that we think are most relevant. First, where did the Rothschilds get so much wealth that they tried to control the world for 200 years? Or trying to? Second, did they have a hand in the establishment of Israel? Thirdly, there are sudden storms and earthquakes in the world. There have been changes in the weather. Why is the name of the Rothschild behind them? What is the secret? And what is the evidence for this? And finally, where are the Rothschilds in a controlling position in the world economy today in 2023? Are they still controlling the world today? So, my curious fellows, 500 years ago when the Rothschilds lived in Frankfurt, their situation was poorer than any poor family today. They were like chickens in a barn, 30 people living together in small houses, because they were neither allowed to buy a big new house nor did they have enough money. The Rothschilds had to live in these conditions not for 2 or 4 years, but for 200 years. Even time quietly took a big curve, and times have changed. 1712 brought a revolution in the textile industry with a steam engine and textile mills. Together they gave the world an industrial revolution. Products that used to be produced in small quantities in months were now produced in hundreds of tons in weeks. From America to Europe, there was always a traffic of merchant ships. European markets were particularly rich in products such as textile products, silk carpets, tools, coal, and tea. So, a special business that Jews also did, its importance increased a lot. This was the job of money exchange. Traders who came to Europe from all over the world wanted a local currency. So the Rothschilds in Frankfurt also did this on a small scale. But in 1760, a young man came from this family who changed the fortune of the whole family by entering this business. The young man's name was Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Amschel Rothschild's father, Moses Rothschild, was a money changer and silk merchant. He wanted his son Amschel not to be a businessman, but a rabbi, a Jewish mullah. But what happened was that Moses Rothschild died when his son was only 12 years old. This moment was a turning point in the life of young Amschel Rothschild. His family urgently needed not a religious scholar, but a business supporter. So the elders of the family sent Amschel to another German city, Hanover. Here he worked as a trainee in the banking firm of Simon Wolf Oppenheimer, a Jew. The Oppenheimer family also had business ties to the Rothschild family. Because of this, Amschel Rothschild also got a job easily and had a full opportunity to learn the business. After working for this firm for about 8 years, he probably returned to Frankfurt in 1763 and started his own business there. It started with money exchange and the sale of antiques. Here, fellows, you have to understand one thing about Frankfurt and Germany in particular. That is, Germany in the 18th century was not a unified nation, as it is today, but a collection of several independent states, as Nuremberg and Hamburg were also independent states. Frankfurt was the largest of these German states, and, like some other states, it had city imperialism. That is, the ruler of the city was like a king. Getting his pleasure and intimacy meant a good deal of power. So Amschel Rothschild began to establish relations with William I, the ruler of Frankfurt. The ruler of the city loved antiques, so Amschel sent William I a gift of some precious coins and antique items. A rapport was established, and the emperor continued to procure valuable antiques. Now, obviously, it had become a business relationship as well. Rothschild began to profit from this. It so happened that the ruler of the city, William I, was deeply impressed by Amschel Rothschild's business values. So impressed that in 1769, Amschel was granted the status of court Jew. In Germany at that time, the term Jew factor was used for Jews from whom the government borrowed money. So now Amschel Rothschild also joined the same group of Jews from whom the government of Frankfurt borrowed at interest. So the government started taking loans from them, along with business facilities. In 1770, Mayor Amschel Rothschild married Gudel Schnapper, the daughter of a wealthy Jewish businessman, Wolf Salomon Schnapper. From this marriage, 5 sons were born to Amschel. The names of these sons were Amschel Mayer, Salomon Mayer, Nathan Mayer, Karl Mayer, and James Mayer. After marriage, Amschel Rothschild became more active in business and began to increase his contacts in the city's ruling circles. In 1785, when the ruler of Frankfurt, William I, ascended the throne of Hesse Castle and became the prince of this region, he moved there permanently. Mayor Rothschild also shifted his business and his contacts to Kassel. It was there that he got his first big breakthrough in 1794. What happened was that the ruler of Kassel, William I, had a huge military force and had made it a business to rent this army to other countries. William gave this army on rent to England in the war against France and received millions of pounds in return. Now the responsibility of secretly sending this huge payment to different European countries came to Mayor Rothschild. So he successfully carried out this job and proved that he was not only a businessman, but also had influence, network, and trust throughout Europe. When Amschel Rothschild's reputation began to spread, he sent his sons to different cities of Europe to expand his business empire. The first son, Amschel Mayer, was kept in Frankfurt to run the central business. Salomon Mayer was sent to Vienna, Nathan Mayer to London, Karl Mayer to Naples, and the youngest son, James Mayer, was sent to Paris. These 5 brothers worked under a single umbrella of trust. These 5 Rothschild branches used to pass each other's information, make deals for one another, and even protect each other's wealth in times of crisis. For example, in 1812, when Mayor Amschel Rothschild died, the entire family fortune was in the hands of these 5 brothers. And by then, their business had expanded not only to money lending, but also to currency exchange, gold trading, and government-level deals. But the real turning point came during the famous Napoleonic Wars. In 1815, a decisive battle took place between Napoleon's army and the Allied European forces at Waterloo. Before this battle, the Rothschild family supported both sides. Nathan Rothschild, who was in London, loaned huge sums of money to the British Army. At the same time, he ensured that his Paris-based brother James also had contact with Napoleon's men. So no matter who won, the Rothschilds would not lose. But Nathan Rothschild went one step ahead. He established the world's fastest information delivery system using carrier pigeons and couriers. He got the news of Napoleon's defeat a full 24 hours before the British government. Nathan reached the London stock market and quietly started selling off his stocks, pretending that the British had lost. Seeing a top investor panicking, others also began selling in a rush, and the stock market collapsed. When the prices hit rock bottom, Nathan bought all the major stocks again, secretly and cheaply. The very next day, when official news of Napoleon's defeat arrived, the market skyrocketed. Rothschild stocks multiplied in value. Through this move alone, it is said that Nathan Rothschild made a profit that was more than the entire British treasury of that time. This incident made the Rothschilds legendary in financial circles. After the Battle of Waterloo, the Rothschild family's financial empire exploded across Europe. They were now not just bankers, they were power brokers. Governments started coming to them for loans instead of approaching kings or the church. The Rothschilds gave out loans to monarchs, funded wars, and helped rebuild entire nations. In 1825, during a major economic crisis in England, the Bank of England itself was on the brink of collapse. Guess who saved it? Nathan Rothschild. He lent such a massive amount of gold to the Bank of England that it stabilized the British economy. This single act made the Rothschilds untouchable in the financial world. By now, the Rothschild brothers were controlling national debts, funding railway lines, financing infrastructure, and even influencing who ruled which European country. Their financial network was faster and more secure than any government system. And since their 5 banking houses were spread across Frankfurt, London, Vienna, Naples, and Paris, they always had their eyes and hands in every European matter. A simple code system and trusted couriers kept them ahead of time, always receiving critical news before governments did. But with this rise came suspicion and secrecy. People began to notice how the Rothschilds operated in silence. They didn't show off wealth, didn't live like kings, and rarely gave interviews. Still, they were becoming the most powerful family in Europe. Rumors started spreading that the Rothschilds controlled governments from behind the scenes, that they funded both sides of wars, and even that they aimed to create a new world order. While some of this is clearly conspiracy, their real financial influence was undeniable. At one point, it was said that the Rothschilds controlled more wealth than all the royal families of Europe combined. The Rothschilds were also very careful in preserving their power within the family. They married cousins, avoided splitting the inheritance, and ran the entire empire like a private institution. Mayor Rothschild himself had written in his will that the family business must always remain under the Rothschild name and control. No outsiders, no selling of shares, just pure legacy. That's how they ensured that their wealth would never dilute over generations. As the 20th century began, the Rothschild family continued to hold immense power across Europe. Although the 5 main brothers had passed away, their descendants had established deep ties within politics, banking, and even royalty. One of the most impactful contributions the family made in modern history was their connection to the founding of Israel. In 1917, during World War I, the British government issued a document called the Balfour Declaration, which supported the establishment of a Jewish homeland in Palestine. This letter was addressed to Lord Walter Rothschild, a prominent Zionist and member of the British branch of the family. Many believe that the Rothschilds played a major role behind the scenes in lobbying for this declaration. Later, in the 1940s, when the movement to create Israel grew stronger, it was again the Rothschilds who funded major institutions, land purchases, and infrastructure in the region. Roads, government buildings, and even agricultural projects in the early years of Israel were supported by donations from the Rothschild family. To this day, many locations in Israel are named after them, like Rothschild Boulevard in Tel Aviv and the Rothschild Hospital in Haifa. However, as their influence grew, so did the rumors and conspiracy theories. People started claiming that the Rothschilds were part of a secret elite that controlled world events. One of the most common theories is that they own or control all central banks around the world, including the U.S. Federal Reserve. Another theory claims they manipulate wars, economic crashes, and political revolutions to serve their interests. The idea of the one world government, a global system ruled by a handful of elite families, often includes the Rothschilds at the top of the pyramid. Some conspiracy theorists even link the Rothschilds to mysterious groups like the Illuminati or Freemasons. They accuse the family of orchestrating everything from 9/11 to COVID-19, to manipulating the weather through HAARP or geoengineering. While most of these claims lack credible evidence, the secrecy of the Rothschilds fuels the fire. They rarely appear in public, don't give interviews, and their wealth is spread across trusts, foundations, and private holdings. making it nearly impossible to trace. Today, the Rothschild family is far less visible than it once was. Their wealth is believed to be divided among hundreds of heirs, and their banking empire is no longer centralized like before. However, they still hold significant assets in Europe and have influence in global environmental and philanthropic causes. They have shifted from being shadowy bankers to elite figures involved in sustainable development and climate initiatives. Yet, the mystery remains. Are they simply an old, wealthy family that helped shape Europe? Or are they still pulling strings behind closed doors? The Rothschild name still carries weight, even after more than 2 centuries. But in today's world, their dominance is far more subtle, almost invisible. The days when they finance wars, rescue banks, or influence kings are mostly behind them. Yet their legacy remains stitched into the very fabric of global finance. Modern Rothschilds are involved in private equity, sustainable energy, wine estates, and philanthropy. For example, Baron Benjamin de Rothschild, who passed away in 2021, was known more for managing the Edmund de Rothschild Group and promoting environmental causes than for political manipulation. The family now focuses on low-profile wealth management and elite influence rather than open control. They still own banks and investment firms, but they operate through private holdings and closed-circle partnerships, far from the public eye. Still, their surname alone attracts attention, suspicion, and awe. Millions believe the Rothschilds are secretly richer than Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, that they manipulate elections, control world currencies, or decide which nations rise and fall. Social media is flooded with posts connecting them to every major global event. Yet, despite all the theories, there is no solid proof that the Rothschilds control the world today. But maybe the truth is more chilling. The Rothschilds don't need to control the world anymore, because they helped design the system. A system where money flows quietly, where power lies not in the spotlight, but behind the curtain. They were the architects of global finance. They showed how wealth could become power, how information could build empires, and how a single family could shape the future of nations. So, are the Rothschilds still the rulers of global finance? Or are they a fading dynasty whose myth has outgrown their reality? That question is still unanswered.